was just playing with my brother down on the beach, like we do on most days whenever the sun shines. The sand was soft, the wind was cool, and the water was warm. It couldn't have been any more perfect. We'd always play all sorts of games. Tag, hide and seek, see who could throw the stone farthest. Sometimes we'd even go for a swim in the ocean. That was always fun. The beach was always our most favourite place to go. Nowhere else would top it. You could even try and name me a better place. I'd just say that you're wrong. Or at least, I would have. By now, it had been at least, I think, over 2 years ever since I last been to that beach. Before the incident. Like I said before, that one day we were at the beach was one of the best that we've had in a very, very long time. We did what we've always done, just play around, like brothers should. We were there for practically the whole day. We were even still there when it started to become dark. We were just getting ready to go home, until we eventually heard it. A blood-curdling scream, coming from somewhere out in the water. It almost sounded as though someone was screaming out for help. My brother became curious as to what it was. He told me he wanted to go investigate it. I told him that I wasn't sure on whether or not this was a good idea. Where the screaming came from, it was a little further out than we'd always go. By the time we'd find where the screaming came from, they'd probably already be dead. But I couldn't stop him. He was so insisted on looking. Before I could really say anything else, he was already back in the water. That's when the fog appeared. I continued to watch as he swam out, but the fog became thicker and thicker. It was becoming too difficult for me to see him. Eventually the fog became too thick. I couldn't see him anymore, no matter how hard I tried. I was then beginning to worry, as it became completely silent after that. Finally, I heard something again. Screaming. Only this time, it didn't come from the person that screamed before. It was coming from my brother. I then began calling out his name, hoping that he was okay, but he didn't respond. I stayed there for another few minutes, calling out his name, but he still didn't answer back. I then began to panic. Something had happened out there. Something had caught him. Finally, the fog began to clear up. I could see a silhouette out there in the water. Not of a human, but a horse. This horse-like creature just stared at me, with its eyes glowing as bright as the moon. All I could do was just stare back at it. It then sank back down into the ocean, waiting for its next victim. I don't know completely what happened that night, but I knew one thing for sure. That thing had taken my brother. And ever since that fateful night, I've never stepped foot on that beach again, because I was afraid that I would encounter that beast for a second time. However, in the nights after that, I did hear screaming again, but I didn't go investigate it because I knew exactly what it was. I never looked at that beach the same way ever again. Whenever I look at it now, all I see is a death sentence. I tried to encourage people to not step on that beach whenever they heard screaming, but they looked at me as if I was crazy. I didn't want anyone to make the same mistake my brother did that night, but after a while, I just stopped caring. If they go to the screaming, that's now their problem. I warned them, but they didn't listen. People continued to go missing. All I would do is say that I told them so. And until I die, I will continue to tell this tale, not just as a story, but as a warning for anyone else who plans to go onto that beach.